Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Bit Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we have got a great show planned for you. Today is one of our special episodes, so we will have a guest for our closing segment. So do stick around till the end if you're watching this live. Um, Other than that, we will talk about tigers today, and also a problem they're facing in India's Shimlipal Tiger Reserve. Um, we also have some insect things to talk about. Apparently, I made a comment a few shows back around insects being sort of the least important in all of the biodiversity. Maybe I need to retract that comment. Also, very exciting for me is there has been some developments around finding life on Mars. So yeah, we'll cover a variety of topics. Meghna, what else do we have?
Okay, so I am going to be talking about, we are going to be talking about the second whale pair that has been trapped in Queensland shark nets, and it sparked a rescue mission. So we're going to talk about how shark nets, pros and cons, if they're good, they're not. Spoiler, but yeah. And then we're also going to talk about how women led patrols and fire prevention restores the forests in northern Thailand. So, how does community engagement work and how effective is it? And then, if we have time, we will touch on other topics, but that's about it.
All right, why don't we get straight into the headline topic around tigers? Again, tigers, one of our very favorite animals. I think both of us um, we have been sort of uh, visiting tiger reserves for as long as I can remember from a very young age for me. But this is a report from National Geographic. A very prominent wildlife photographer from India, Prasenjit Yadav. He did this photo story. I think it mentioned in the article, he photographed this story for over 14 months. But I'll just read sort of a summary of the article, which says India's tiger population, once on the brink of extinction, has significantly rebounded. This is as true as it can be, and a very positive campaign overall. However, this ecological success has inadvertently led to a critical problem: the threat of genetic collapse of certain unique populations. This article details a 50-day quest in Odisha's Simlipal Tiger Reserve to locate T12, an elusive 10-year-old male tiger whose striking black melanistic coat makes him a symbol of this precarious situation. Um, this forest officials search for such tigers not only for research but also uh, to assess their physical health, which camera traps might miss. T12, the oldest male in Shimlipal, is central to a plan amid and ensuring the genetic survival of its future generations. The dramatic sighting of T12, described as an enormous tiger with dark fur and orange slivers, underscores the urgent efforts to monitor and protect these distinct tigers from an impending genetic crisis. Um, this is a problem because the doesn't have tigers doesn't have enough space. Um, Tigers have huge territories. Some of us will know, some of us will not. But yeah, the truth is, tigers have huge territories, and they're mostly solitary animals. And yeah, it is a danger. Um, and what the investigation and sort of the photo story has also found is that this tiger is sort of the T12 is the parent, and his genes has been passed on to a lot of offsprings, and a lot of offsprings are being born with this condition, which is supposed to be rare, and that means that there is inbreeding happening, which is a concern, which is a concern.
And for those people who do not know about Project Tiger, it there was this campaign maybe 10 to 15 years back. Oops.
More than
Yeah.
that, 30 years. I think 30 years.
No,
Project Tiger,
30. Was it that
1970s
old?
it started.
No, no, it wasn't that old. It was when we were younger. Are you sure that it was that old?
Project Tiger is very old. Yes, because
Project Tiger India. Okay, 1970s. But when was that entire thing of only 1411 tigers left? When was that happening?
that was I think a bit later into the into sort of the millennial age, but yeah. I think after the 2000s,
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
it was in 2006. So then the government and a lot of conservation organizations launched this entire um, what would you say, campaign saying that there are only 1411 tigers left, and the 1411 number became really significant, and people rallied so that the tigers could be protected and conserved. And this
Mm,
is one of the biggest conservation stories. And now the tigers are, I think, above 3700. Yeah, I think the latest number, or at least the
mm,
2022 number, is that they're above 3,700. So that is an amazing, phenomenal increase. But as Oops has said, it doesn't reflect um, the space constraint, though, because even though the tigers are increasing, if there is a genetic collapse, then that kind of goes against the entire, what would you say, the efforts of growing the tiger population to that level.
yes, and I think that is already a problem. It is already an existent problem in um, Gujarat's Gir National Park, where the lions there are basically inbred to an extent where any small thing that affects one lion can wipe out the entire population, um, which is not very ideal. And this photo story sort of goes on to show that this, you
Oh,
know,
look at that. Oh, he's
all the
beautiful though.
tigers, I mean, looks beautiful, but yeah, the tigers are being born with this genetic condition, which basically, without even like DNA testing or anything, it goes to show that this is a problem. Like, they are inbreeding. Um,
But is there any side effects to be to having like darker stripes? Like we know that there is inbreeding because you can see it on the face of it, right? But
yes,
what if in other national parks there was inbreeding, but because there is no black gene, like the black fur, we do not know the extent of inbreeding in other places.
I think there it is pretty vehemently tracked, all national parks. This rose to that level of popularity because obviously this tiger, the T12 tiger, is very photogenic, and obviously the offsprings are being born that way as well. So that gave it that popularity. But I think all national parks basically did track sort of the genetic diversity and all those different things. Um, and I think this is not without any solutions. So there has been sort of these efforts of raising the highways and creating like a corridor between a couple of different national parks. I think there's a beautiful image here as well. So yeah, so this picture basically, yeah, the human animal sort of boundaries are sort of thinning uh, uh, per every day. I'll just go find that map. Um, this story does have a beautiful map, which sort of trying to just find that. But yeah, basically there is an effort to um, connect a lot of um, different tiger reserves so that this problem can be mitigated and the tigers can sort of roam free. I think Meghna talked about, you know, um, the space for animals and how we have encroached into that over the years. I think um, connecting those parks would be a good idea um, overall. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know how bad it is for the tigers, but like Oops mentioned, the lions literally they are like only in one state, and it is also because that state prides itself for having the lions. So they're like, no, we will not let them go anywhere. So now the lions have overpopulated in that little area, and how Oops is spoken. If there is anything, then any problem, the smallest little disease, it will spread like wildfire through them. And this is something that we do not want for the tiger population. So we still do not know what is the most effective solution for it. Um, and how badly does inbreeding affect tiger subs? Do you have any idea of what is the percentage of inbreeding that usually happens, and how badly is it affecting areas like Simlipal and other places? And
Um,
what are the side effects
this
of it?
I think the Simlipal Tiger Reserve is especially bad because it only has like a very handful number of tigers, and you know 30 or so tigers, and the reserve is not very huge as well. So that area is being shared by a smaller number of tigers. So the interactions between tigers are increasing, um, and we don't sort of want that high levels of interactions. Um, because tigers are solitary, and tigers are solitary for a reason. um, they need that area, and that means that they have that area to look for different mates as they go by, and that sort of it's nature's way of um, curbing inbreeding. Uh, so there is plans of connecting Simlipal to um, like sorry, it cannot be connected to Sundarban because there is no corridor that's left because it goes through agricultural or urban areas. So that is the main effort that is going on per this article. Connecting via those you know wildlife highways, basically the images that I showed. Yeah, I think that is one of the only ways to do it. There has been other efforts of introducing new tigresses as well. So here's an image where a tigress called Jamuna is being introduced into the reserve. This is also a way of solving this problem. Introducing new genes. But whatever be the solution, it is a solution. It seems like a human intervene solutions basically. So we have to actively work for a certain period of time to make this happen, and then it can go back to being completely natural, I think.
But tell me this, isn't it, if there is inbreeding happening, introducing males would be the solution instead of introducing just females? Because obviously the males are territorial, they are hierarchical,
The
and
problem is
there is.
this. The problem is this. So this male died in a fight with another male. So if you introduce males, the dominant male will end up taking the other male's life. So the male
But
territories
that
have to be
doesn't
more.
that doesn't solve the inbreeding problem. Then the
That
inbreeding is not
yeah.
just because there are less females, right? The inbreeding is happening because of the same male with a lot of females. So that is not an active solution. If you're just introducing a female, that will not be
No,
a.
no, no, no. The problem to look at it is it's the gene pool that's shrinking. So you basically try to introduce new genes into the gene pool. That's the solution. So that's how it's amazing, but that's how nature sort of
Yeah,
balances it out. You
but
have to just introduce new genes.
but
So
the
if there
new
is enough,
genes, the new genes have to be both male and female, right? It
no, no, no.
cannot be just
Even
female.
with new genes, if there is say five new genes that have been introduced, there's genetic diversity. So after that, even if there is a chance of inbreeding, that's fine.
Also, the fact that I don't know about Simlipal, but in most national tiger reserves, a lot of males do stay not together, but they have their own territories marked. But the amount of fights and deaths that happen, they're I think minimal. Like the fights that happen and the deaths that happen because of a fight. Like there are scuffles and there are scuffles between tigers and leopards as well in India, but the amount of deaths that are caused are minimal. So why only in Simlipal are we not looking at introducing more male tigers as well?
Area. I think the area is like very small compared to the other areas. So
Also,
this
also,
is
how do you feel about introductions from one place to another? Like, I think even tigers, a lot of tigers have a huge migratory pattern where I think some tigers have been seen traveling or walking from the forests of the south till the forests of the north in India. So I do not know how relocation is very helpful when tigers are a decently migratory species.
that's the thing. Like, so the long-term solution definitely is to create those highways for the tigers to migrate. Now there is no place for the tigers to migrate because there are no highways. That they can't basically go from one reserve to other. Maybe there is a fence, maybe there is a physical blockage, or sort of a human man-made highway that's cutting through it, and the tigers can't cross it. Um, so I think that's definitely the long-term solution, but I think the officials are also thinking of the short-term solution. So it says officials hope that this Jamuna will mate with Simlipal's males and produce a more genetically diverse generation of tigers. And I think also, I think they definitely would have calculated the number of males per capita and all those things as well. So I think there is enough males there in Simlipal. But and it also says that Chandrapur Tiger Reserve is also another reserve that's sort of growing, um, like the tiger population is growing exponentially, so it's not enough to contain all the tigers. And I think it goes back to what you said a couple of episodes back, that we have designated these national parks, so they have to stay within that area. Because it is like that. That's the reason for these kinds of problems.
Yes, I think yes, I think we also we spoke about how we've made these borders for all animals. And yeah, because we made the borders, we've created the problems. But I would still believe that there are, I don't know, I mean, it's still weird for me that we have to introduce and we have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's the same thing that we spoke about last time, that if it is something that's, yeah, again, if this is not nature induced, this is induced by us, so it's different from the last topic. But still, I think it's really weird that we have to keep meddling with nature
Or
all the time.
till a certain point, and I think that's how I see like the future. If we want nature to survive, because we are encroaching so much, and like not without reason though, like because we have 6 billion of us, maybe 90% of it is like the encroachment is without reason, but 10% is also because we need to, because where else will we stay and things like that. um I think that's the thing. If the population keeps growing, which is I think projected to reach 10 billion or 15 billion by some estimates, I think we'll have to keep meddling more and more in natural things so that we can protect that, but also protect our interests as well. So yeah, I don't think there is any other way forward. I don't know.
I mean, there is one of the ways is obviously curbing our population first by doing more drives to not overpopulate. I
we
mean,
can we have tried that. Many countries are trying that actively, and I think that is something that should be actively tried by every government.
I
Um,
mean, combined
yeah,
between just India and China, we have almost 3 billion people. So, 3/8 of the population stays here. That's more than 25% stays just in these two countries, which is a big deal because our land area doesn't match with the bigger countries like Russia and US.
I mean
And still,
China's kind of does, but China is like like the population is concentrated within the big cities. The rural areas are just khali, full,
empty. But
empty.
that is with a lot of places, I think. I mean, if you go into remote areas in India as well, there are hardly any people staying there. It's always the cities that are concentrated because they are the places that provide you the opportunities and are dubbed as the land of dreams, as they would say it, which I think is the opposite. But still, I mean, the remote places are so much better. But yes, coming back to the tiger topic, um, we're really happy for Prasenjit and for making it to the Nat Geo cover because those are some amazing pictures he's taken and a lot of hard work he's put in.
Yeah,
So
we might
that
try to get him in our show at some point as well. Um, but yeah, it's a beautiful photo story. Um, he has done a good job with the words as well. He has written the story as well. So yeah, it's it's a great effort to bring this out to you know a lot of the world, because also obviously all of this requires a significant amount of investment and significant amount of money as well. So as much as we have that presence, you know in the world, we can expect more and more, donors and people who are interested and people who are wanting to support that cause join in that cause, because yeah, as bad as billionaires are, it's the money, as it's their money sort of that gets fueled and that fuels all of these projects, big projects. Um,
talking
yeah,
about okay, I think talking about tigers being trapped in national reserves, we can talk about whales being trapped in shark nets.
yeah,
Um, And oops, I would need your help with the article because it's not letting me share it with that.
I can share it.
Yeah, it's just saying please disable your ad blocker. Um,
Yeah, no
yes,
worries.
yes. So basically, this is a news item from Australia, and there are these images, and there's a video that we would be showing you, which shows a mother and a calf humpback whale fighting for their lives after becoming entangled in shark nets of Noosa, Queensland. The pair was spotted on Wednesday with the calf at serious drowning risk. Rescue efforts faced a 7-hour delay due to safety concerns, resulting in their freedom near 11:45 p.m. The calf reportedly became more entangled during this delay, raising concerns for its long term well being. This is the second mother calf humpback entanglement in shark nets within days. And for those who do not know, in the warm summer months, which is from July, August, September, and just I think a month before that, the humpback whales, the moms, they migrate from the colder waters of Antarctica, because they give birth in the warmer waters of it be Australia or Tonga or Cook Islands or anything northern, which can also be places like Mozambique and other places wherever it is warmer. Because one, there are like huge currents in the water, and it's not great for the baby to be born in such huge currents. Secondly, it's really cold in Antarctica, and the sharks do not have as much blubber and as much fat when you're really young, and they need to come up even more often up for a breath of air than the mum does. So the mum can be below the surface for 20 to 25 minutes, but the baby needs to come up every 5 minutes for a breath.
And
Um,
this is like a very sad image where the baby is trapped in that shark net. The mom is trapped a little bit as well. Um, yeah.
and the thing is, I mean, people think that shark nets are great, that they actually keep the sharks off at bay, but the sharks, like the research that has come out, it has shown that with or without shark nets there is no difference. One, because the way the shark nets are placed, they're not placed across an entire beach, they're placed in small stretches, and then in between there are gaps. So there are wildlife that can enter in, and then they might get trapped while going out, or they might get trapped while coming in. But either way, the shark nets have been shown to not have any impact. But if at all, it has created this disastrous impact of what do you say, trapping wildlife in that, and then there have to be rescue efforts for them, and then all the plastic waste into the ocean when these shark nets probably get fragmented or swept away if they do happen. So these shark nets are just these false, what would you say, this false security to people that, oh, there are
Hmm.
these nets. And it is better to not have a false security, but better have, like, wait, what would you say, like, oops, aren't drone patrols or something better? Like if there is, let's say, a great white or a tiger or any kind of shark that is nearby that could be potentially risky for surfers, you could put up a board, or you could have this announcement saying that today is not a good day to get into the water. Or like, there are these risks at this beach. Like there are certain beaches in Australia that always say that this beach has this risk, so do not go surfing at this beach. Those are better ideas than putting these shark nets, which in my opinion are absolutely useless.
I think, yes, I think technology in general, and I think there has been a lot of articles, etc., about AI being tracking wildlife and things like that. So I think not even drones, like if we have some cameras high enough on a pole, then they can sort of monitor the shoreline for any potential threats, any potential sharks entering. But I think that false sense of security is what why shark nets are still there. People are like, oh, there is something that might protect me, so why not? But
Yeah,
the
I guess
consequence is
it's the same theory as if you tell people that there is a god up there that will protect you, then people will have that false sense of security, and that, that fallback plan that, oh yes, there is someone who is looking after me.
hope.
And I think it's the same thing with the shark nets. And for people who did not know, I mean, shark deaths, I think, are 2 to 3 deaths a year, maximum 10 deaths. There are attacks, maybe up to 20 attacks. But there are two things in this. One, obviously, you do not fall into the diet of a shark. When you're surfing, you look like a seal to them because their eyesight isn't great, but their receptors at their nose and other senses are more heightened than their eyesight. So you look like a seal to them, and they come, and obviously, their one bite can take off a hand or a leg. But then they leave you and go. It's not because you punched the shark or you kicked the shark. It's because the shark did not like your taste. But their one bite is big enough to actually, like, take off a hand or a leg. But sharks are obviously demonized because of this. And also how we spoke about a few episodes back, right? Oops, about Jaws and how it created
Yes.
fear for beachgoers. I mean, people, the most dangerous thing for humans after mosquitoes are humans. Like, humans kill humans the most, but we would rather be scared of a shark in the water than of a
TB.
human on land.
TB is the most dangerous thing.
TB?
Tuberculosis.
No, no, no. I'm
Yes.
talking about like animals or something
Ah,
attacking.
right, right,
So
right,
like
right.
the mosquitoes are the first
Mosquitoes.
that cause the death, and then it's humans, and then I think it's
Correct.
dogs. So something like that. There's a whole hierarchy of things, but humans after mosquitoes. I mean, mosquitoes, if we hate them so much, but we love humans so much. But yeah, that's always a different topic to debate. But yes, so the shark nets in grand total, I think a waste. We should get the shark nets out, let the wildlife breathe. Um, Especially, I mean, imagine you have a small child, I mean, that little baby still struggling to breathe, and it's trapped in this net, doesn't know what it is. Uh, the moms stay with their babies for up to 6 months to an year. The moms, when they migrate to warm waters, and this is amazing in Wales, so they don't have any food source in the warm waters. In the cold waters, they feed on krill, which are these tiny, tiny, um, what would you
Shrimp.
say?
Shrimp
Yeah,
like things.
yeah, shrimp like things. So they're really tiny, and whales are also like filter feeders, kind of like filter feeders. So when they don't have any food for 6 months or how many ever months they're traveling to the warmer waters, they're not eating. The moms are not eating anything, but they're still feeding their young, which I don't know how many species can do, but this is absolutely epic that they have the energy stored in them to feed and to travel and to take care of your newborn, and make sure that it is healthy and you can bring up what do you say, a teenager, a juvenile humpback back to Antarctica.
Mm. I think it's great that this article mentions or has this photograph there where young people, kids are sort of having that peaceful protest and campaigning for shark nets, sort of getting out shark nets. And I think this is important because that is what will make the government change those rules and change those things, because it has a quote from minister for primary industries Tony Perrett said that the government will always, quote, always put the safety of people above sharks, end quote. So that is, I think that is the general thinking when it comes to any kind of human animal interaction. I think that is the default stance of the government, and I think that has
No,
to be the
the
default stance
stance
of the government.
the stance is fine, but the implementation is not. The implementation is useless. Like, I mean, if you're going to say that shark nets are actually protecting people, that is not true, right? So even if
Mm,
they have the public interest at large, there are better ways to do it than have a shark net that is not helping the people or the sharks or other marine life out there.
mm, yeah, I think
But I think
it's
that is
very,
that is with every government, that again governments give you this false sense of security that they're doing a whole lot for you, even if it is installing shark nets only for 100 200 meters and then not having anything, and then again having shark nets for 100 200 meters. They would say, oh, we did our job. There's a lot of safety
yeah.
in the water. So I mean, I'm done with my job. I have put the people in the
And they can't
priority.
say otherwise, right? They can't say that we will put sharks above, because that will just even if they don't mean it, they have to say those things because um, otherwise they would just lose.
No, no, obviously, I'm not saying that they would say that, but I'm just saying that implementation on part of every government across the world is is lukewarm. I would say it's lukewarm.
Yes.
Like, when it comes to anything, I'm not even talking about environment. Environment is like the least, it's on the back burner for most governments because there are other pressing issues. But even when it comes to environment, it's very fizzled out and it's very lukewarm. The efforts that are made to actually help people or animals in any kind of setup when there's a human animal wildlife conflict, there are very few places where there's like really active, what would you say, efforts from the government. And in totality, I think when we were discussing this topic, Oops wasn't sure about how shark nets, how great shark nets were or how bad it was. But then I think he researched and then he was like, okay, yes, I agree with you. Shark nets are not good.
Yeah, that's what I found. Um, Speaking of um, lukewarm and heat, I think this is a topic that has been sort of in my mind for for some time now. Um, so a very hot planet, Mars. We have been deploying some satellites and rovers and a lot of different things to prepare it for the dream of settling there once. But we also have scientific interests in Mars in terms of if there was life. That would be hugely satisfying because oh, we are not alone in the 7,000 billion light years wide universe. So strange leopard spots in a Mars rock could be the strongest hint of life yet. NASA's Perseverance Mars rover has identified Sapphire Canyon, a rock sample from Jezero crater's Shayava Falls, as the top candidate for preserving ancient microbial signs. Collected from a dry riverbed, this sample contains potential biosignatures, substances suggesting biological origin. So we already know that Mars at some point had liquid water. And the the area where Perseverance rover is deployed was chosen very carefully because it it is in a dry riverbed. So that means um, there is more potential of finding some trace of life where there used to be liquid water because we have identified that liquid water is one of those things that is sort of a requirement for life from the experience we have, which is basically Earth.
Now
Published
I
in
have.
Nature.
Oh, sorry. You finished. Then I'll ask you two questions.
Okay. Published in Nature, which is the top journal for scientific discoveries, publishing scientific discoveries. This discovery is hailed as the closest humanity has come to finding life on Mars, a groundbreaking achievement. Acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy noted its significance for understanding the red planet, found within the Bright Angel Formation of Neretva Falls, an ancient river valley. The finding reflects NASA's strategic mission planning, as I said. The agency commits gold standard science by making peer reviewed data available to wider scientific community for analysis and biological potential. So I just share the images on the screen. Um, so this is basically okay. First of all, look at this article and look at the number of authors it has. I think that this is like the most number of authors I've ever seen in a paper. Because everyone in that community, like astrobiology community, wants to get a piece of this. And this has already had like 312,000 people accessing this article. So this is, I think, equivalent of going viral in the academic community. So this is the path of the Perseverance rover. This bright angel patch of thing is where this was found. This sign was found, and this is sort of the field of view from the Perseverance rover itself. Um, and what it found was basically this. So you really have to zoom in to look into what it is. But basically, there are these leopard type spots on the surface of a rock. And if you've seen an algal formation on a rock on Earth, you will know what this is. They leave when the algae is gone. If you scrape it away, they leave this goopy thing, which is basically algae poop or microbial poop. Um, this is what they found. They have done some spectral analysis, and they're pretty, as they're saying, like it's a pretty strong candidate for having life on Mars. Um,
Okay, so
very
now,
exciting, very exciting. Yeah,
so
Meghna, go ahead.
now I'm going to ask you the two questions. One,
Yes.
so this is still only a potential. There is no confirmation.
No, no, no. It is a potential thing. We have to still do a lot more experiments to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my second question is that you said, okay, I actually have three questions now. Okay.
Okay,
Then my
go ahead.
second question is that you said it would be nice to have life somewhere outside on another planet to know that we are not alone. And algae is your idea of having a companion somewhere outside?
No, but that's
You're
that's
going to be
like
happy talking to like one leopard spot somewhere.
I will be happy to have found evidence that life evolved somewhere else as well. I'll be happy with that information. Even if there is no active life there, I'll be happy. And I think I'm speaking for the entire community that is interested in astrobiology. Is I'll be happy just by that information that we have found life somewhere else other
Okay.
than Earth.
And the third question, actually, okay, now I have one more question. But the third question, oh, wait, what was my third question? Um,
Yeah, but I think
okay, I'll ask you my fourth question first.
okay.
No, I found. Okay, wait. I remember my third
Go
question.
ahead, go ahead.
Why do humans think that because humans need water to survive, all life on all planets need water to survive?
Oh
Maybe
no no
they
no
do
no.
not.
We don't think like that. We don't think like that.
We
We just
assume
think
that. We assume that. We
we
always
assume
assume that.
that because life has evolved so brilliantly with the presence of water and with the correct temperatures, so that because it's like a needle in the haystack. So which haystacks would you like needles a needle in multiple haystacks? So which haystacks would you choose? You choose haystacks that you know that life has evolved before because we have only one example of life evolving. So we
Yes,
just look
but
for similar planets.
we cannot base it off that, saying that every planet has to have plants and trees and water and sun. And okay, sun, I don't know,
No,
but it
but
can be very
we
different.
can't look at like every planet, right? Like there are like unimaginable number of
No,
planets in the universe.
I'm just saying, why do we assume that life means is equals to
Because that makes
water?
it easier to look for to focus our efforts on particular planets. Because otherwise we'll be just be randomly looking at planet and hoping that we would come by a
Okay,
life, which
and
is more expensive.
my last question is obviously something that we have debated off screen earlier, but my question is, how do you justify the exponential cost of finding just potential life or leopard spots on Mars when there are 8 billion people and how much ever, like the plethora of incredible life on planet Earth, and not actually pumping that money into research and, let's say, protection and conservation into life here? How is it justified, the cost?
I think that is a slightly more difficult question to answer, but I would try. My way to look at things is this is advancing human knowledge, and I think that is the only way we have gotten ahead from every other species that is there, and we are ensuring our survival, other species survival at times as well. So I think that is the only way we can if we stop being curious, it's the price of our curiosity. And we know if we stop being curious, then we are nowhere. We'll just stagnate and die off.
Oh,
So
no, we still have so much. I mean, we've still not even explored the ocean properly. We know just
yes,
like
I think
maybe
both
10% of what is
efforts
in the
are
ocean.
important. Like people who are interested in oceans, they also have a right to their research, and people who are interested in astrobiology, they also have a right to their research. So
You
that
know,
is how I
my
see it. One
for
is
me,
exponentially expensive than the other, but
yes.
there are billionaires who are funding this endeavor, and there are billionaires that are funding the other endeavor. So
See, I
whichever takes
understand.
interest.
I understand the curiosity. I just do not understand the justification of the cost, because I think there are enough people who also need that kind of money to survive in on this
Because look at
planet.
this, like at the point when the drugs, all the different drugs were being researched and they were being invented, etc., they were thought of as useless. When Newton was doing his mathematics, they were thought of as useless. When Charles Darwin was doing his theory of evolution, he was ostracized and he was thought being
No, no,
useless.
I'm not even
So
talking
all
about.
science can
I'm
be
not talk.
useless to some people at some point.
No, I'm not talking about how science is useful or useless at some point of time. Like, the timing of a theory and how useful it turns out later. No, I'm just talking about the justification of cost. I'm not talking about the research in itself. I'm just talking about the justification of cost, because we have life on this planet that needs to sustain on the kind of money that is pumped into it. I'm just talking about the justification of cost. I'm not saying don't do the
But if we
research.
don't do that research, then how else would we come to know that if there is something worth coming to know?
No, but I think one of the things that Oops is not saying right now, what he said off screen, is that we have to look for life on other planets, because what would happen if Earth, like, Earth is not habitable anymore? We need to have some other planet to go
No,
to.
but that is regardless of life, right? That is regardless of us finding life. Like we can habitate the moon. There are plans to habitate the moon at some point. There are plans to
There,
habitate the
there is
Mars at
still
some
there's
point.
still controversy on if Neil Armstrong ever set his foot on the
That
moon.
that is a controversy. That is a controversy. But
And
we are planning to
nobody,
send.
literally nobody in the last, what is it,
No, Meghna, you can't
1970.
call that a controversy. It's not a controversy. It's it's a theory. It's a conspiracy theory. Because there are, you know, m- overwhelming evidence of him being on the moon. But we'll send
No,
another
the
astronaut
whole
soon enough,
point is
so we'll know.
I don't think it is not even about what his pictures did and the fluttering of the flag and all of that. No, not that. I think the main problem people have is that nobody set foot on moon after 70. After 1969. 1969 was a period in time where technologically we were not even that advanced, and we were able to send a rocket and we were able to land on the moon, with people coming out of the aircraft and actually taking a sample or putting a flag into the moon. And now, in the last 55 years, where we have AI doing our chores for us, we've not been able to send another human onto the moon, which I think is the main question, where people are like, did we actually ever go to the moon? Because if it was possible in 69, why is it not possible in 89 and 2009 and 2029?
Yeah, we'll find out soon enough. Because there are already plans, multiple different countries sending astronauts again to the moon, including our country, India. So that'll be exciting to see if that's correct and to validate all those
I mean,
things. But
I'm still not a very pro person. I mean, I'm okay with people's curiosity. I just never can justify the kind of cost that goes into astro research.
yeah,
But that's
I mean,
me. I
it
mean,
is a costly
I love
endeavor.
looking at
This,
the night sky and everything that the night sky offers, but I just do not just. I'm not able to justify the cost in my head.
yeah,
But I think it will always be this,
this push and pull. It
yeah,
will
there
always be the
there'll
push
always
and
be
pull
some people
between.
who are okay with spending that kind of money,
Mm,
like the Bezos, just five glamorous ladies going into space for whatever 12
yeah,
minutes and coming again. That has also been a controversy with the door opening episode, or the window opening episode,
yeah.
whatever it is. But yeah, I
But
think space.
there will be people. I think all of the world's billionaires are already thinking about the habitation bit. But for me, the interesting bit from this piece of scientific research, this paper, which is titled "Redox-driven Mineral and Organic Associations in Jezero Crater Mars." I mean, scientists always never fail to make an interesting topic boring as hell with their titles. But this paper is actually very interesting and very exciting for me because this is another step in that that astrobiology.
Yeah, because Oops is extremely attached to that leopard spot in Mars, and how
I
he
mean,
feels like,
not
wow,
really,
wow,
but
I have a friend on Mars. It's a small spot that probably
but
was alive.
we will. This is the first step, and we will. I'm certain that we will find more and more evidence as we go by it, as we go look for in other places, or will not. That's to find out. But anyway, very
Talking,
exciting,
yes,
very cool.
I don't know if it is very exciting and very cool. Definitely cooler than our planet, I guess, colder. I mean, colder. But talking about and getting back to Earth, Oops, do you want to talk about the insects topic? Because I think that is something that we should
Yes,
definitely cover before we have our special guest on board.
definitely. I think this is a top. This is a report from Monga Bay News as well. It's just titled "The Great Insect Crisis." So it goes on to say insects fundamental to global ecosystems, which they are experiencing alarming declines worldwide, prompting a 2019 Monga Bay special series by Jeremy Hans to investigate this insect apocalypse. The report traced the crisis's global scale, highlighting drastic examples such as significant reduction in flying insects in Germany and the near collapse of arthropod populations within Puerto Rico's forests. Hans's four-part series drew insights from interviews with 24 entomologists spanning six continents, providing a comprehensive look into the environmental challenge. It meticulously explored the current understanding and remaining gaps in knowledge concerning the magnitude, underlying causes, and potential ecological consequences of insect decline. This critical examination underscored the urgency of addressing the rapid disappearance of these vital creatures, which underpin essential global functions. Yeah, it's hard to imagine how much important insects are. We know the importance of bees. We know the importance of insects as pollinators, and I think that is a huge part of what insects do for the ecosystem, keeping the ecosystems healthy, keeping the ecosystems
And
balanced.
they are the most, I think, important, what would you say, link in the food chain, because they're at they're right at the bottom. So if you're going to wipe them out, you're essentially wiping everything else out. So either you take out the predators or you take out something that is right at the base level. So insects are something that would probably be really good for the plants. Now land insects probably are contributing, you would know when even farmers take out plants, there are insects under it. So the insects are always working on the soil, the insects are working on the land, they're working on the flowers, they're working on the plants. And there are different insects with different biological functions. But if you're going to, and the insects are the source of food for a lot of animals just about it. So like frogs and leopards and geckos, sorry, leopards, not leopards, lizards, I meant lizards, and geckos and everything else just about it. And birds, obviously a lot of birds are insect eating birds. So if you're going to take the insects out of the equation, you're taking out a lot of animals out of the equation. And I think we were speaking about this a few episodes back, which is why Oops mentioned this. um so we I think Oops mentioned this, I think a few episodes back, that you are not
Yeah.
very concerned about insects. And this comes from our filmmaking course. I think, would you freeze a dead mosquito and feed it to a spider, and would you freeze the dead spider and feed
Like
it
the
to...
ethical standards applied to insects versus something bigger than insects is yeah is vastly different.
Yeah. So
So
that
that plays an important part there, um, and we always, you know, even if you're not interested in wildlife, you would have heard the phrase that measuring or weighing all the insects, um, you know, together and then weighing all human population, the insects would come in, you know, um, weightier. So, you just think that, oh, there are too many insects probably, um, or they're of the least concern. So I think it's good to bring this out, into the open, where, and Mongabe is very good at doing these kinds of stories where they bring out, the critical important things, uh, to the public view, um, very very quickly and very very efficiently. And we have seen how, um, their shark meat expose and things like that, it has sparked a real change.
Yeah, and I think the thing with even us as wildlife communicators is that we also sometimes tend to pick up topics about the bigger charismatic wildlife over something like insects. Um, while insects are beautiful and have like all the colors in nature, and all the amazing things that they do for us, but we tend to overlook it just because they're so much tinier than us. And sometimes we just call them creepy crawlies, but we do not want to. I mean, even in our own homes, oops, like they say that if you have earthworms in your soil, it's really good and your plants would grow really well. So any kind of insect is actually really beneficial, but we don't see it as a benefit until we just only see the benefit in certain parts and certain areas. But insects everywhere have their own benefits, and that is why I think we would also make a constant and consistent effort to bring all kind of topics up, not just about charismatic wildlife, but the smaller wildlife, the even the astro research, even if we don't have like similar thoughts on it, about just different climates and every little and every small thing. um,
Yeah, and I think that's our duty as science communicators as well, to bring that out, in an easy to understand way, to the public.
yep.
I think
And
that's what we do.
I think talking about duty, we can actually switch to the next topic, which is about duty of this women who are actually leading this conservation initiative in the northern forests in Thailand. Even though so northern Thailand faces severe annual haze from crop burning and forest fires, causing significant human health issues. And it is not just northern Thailand; it is there in a lot of areas. Even in India, in the winter months here, we have severe crop burning, which has led to a lot of asthma and different breathing problems. So, for over 2 decades, a women led group in Lampang province has proactively combated this by restoring their local community forest. What they have done is that they have an innovative fire prevention approach, combining regular patrols, checking the dams, fire breaks, and a unique wildlife alert system. And this has made them a recognized regional model. Um, Rachaprapa Kamphud, leader of the Banpong group, explains how moist forest soil maintained by small check dams cultivates valuable edible mushrooms and other non-timber products year-round. This sustainable method provides villagers income, eliminating the need for destructive burning practices. Since 2007, they've transformed a 40-hectare former peanut plantation, creating a moist, nutrient-rich environment even in dry seasons. And I think this is the topic, and what would you say, this is the last line, that they've transformed it. And so there must have been a really really dry forest, and they've transformed it in such a way that it not only protects the forest, but there are areas, like there are other non-timber products like the valuable edible mushrooms and other products that they're able to get from the forest and also sell and get an income. So it is a win-win situation, and very rarely in wildlife do you see like win-win situations, because if you're going to do something good for the humans, then you're doing something bad for the, for the wildlife or the forest. And in some turns, when you do something good for the forest, then you end up doing something bad for the humans, like either what would you say, displace them, or create boundaries, or create some kind of issue. But here, it is the community that has come forward, and the community that has taken that effort here, it being women, and they have actively and proactively created this change.
I think that is a great thing to realize as well, where um, that those areas where we have that ability to you know propagate that kind of idea. And I think always we know this, mothers um, are very effective and very um, instrumental in passing on their thoughts and passing on their principles to their to the young as well. And I think this sort of a this sort of a mentality, this sort of a principled way of doing these things, as Meghna was mentioning, I find it very, very, very helpful, because that just ensures that that sort of thought process is um, spread spread out, and it
Yep.
will ensure sort of the next generations
and
are
and the thing
learning from that
is,
as well.
yep. And the thing is that, we've heard this a lot of time, that change begins from us, but we don't actually implement it. And here they've actually implemented it. And through very tiny things, like nothing big, nothing that makes a huge impact. What they've done is that they found small streams, they've made small check dams so that, the water can be dispersed to different areas. They have made sure that some kind of fungus and mushrooms grow here. So, and as you know, fungus and mushrooms always grow in like moist soil. They need the kind of moisture to grow. So they made sure that there is that kind of moisture around the area. So everything is moisturized, and if nothing is dry, then there's no chance of wildfires happening.
Yeah, and I think that is a very scientific approach they're taking as well. So it's just not we're doing this because we love the forest, but we're doing this the right way. We're doing this, through science, which basically would mean that, the would ensure the survival of things
Yep.
even further into the future.
Yes, and what they've done is they've planted a lot of native trees, and these native trees, when they have a lot of moisture and their leaves fall onto the floor, they're natural fertilizers as well.
Mm.
So, we do not give enough credit to the natural trees, and I think we've spoken about this multiple times in different episodes, Oops and me, how we need more native trees because they're most suited to the weather, just like I talk about native dogs and adopting the native dogs. They're best suited to the climate and
Anything
environment.
native, yes.
Anything native, yes. So because they've been here for thousands and thousands of years, so they are best suited for the climate. They're best suited for the seasons that are there, so they're seasonally also acclimatized. So like trees in India, they get like whatever 2 months in a year, because there's the monsoon only for 2 months, but they're able to survive on those 2 months of water. Their rainwater table is restored to the extent that they can survive for a whole year. So similarly,
Hmm.
in this area, they have done that. They have made sure that there's enough water flowing so that the trees can grow. And the trees in turn, when their leaves fall, are a natural fertilizer. So they are helping the moisture and the growth of spores and mushrooms. And the mushrooms are in turn feeding the people. So they're motivated to keep protecting and making new areas like this protected, so that there is no crop burning happening, and there is no health issues from the crop burning. Because as we know, a lot of people actually burn the crops because they need that area to grow new plants. So what they do is that they would cut the they would cut off the the produce, and then they would shave it really fine, and then they would burn the rest of the little stubs, so that they can, they believe that the ash from those stubs would act as natural fertilizer. But what they do not realize is, when you burn the area and you burn big areas, the pollution that it causes, and the wind with which it has taken over to areas nearby, it can cause breathing issues, and it can cause other health issues. So this is a better way, because you are actually making sure that they do not have to burn those crops.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I like how the holistic approach, right? I like the holistic approach that they're taking. Um, yeah, I feel like that is great in terms of how they are approaching this situation. You know.
Yes. And the thing is that, the village that we're talking about, the Banpong village, it is only home to around 7,100 people, and yet they've been able to create such an impact that Manga Bay has covered this entire article. It's talked about how women, the woman who started this, where she was saying how the villagers were really surprised when they would see that women like her would venture out to extinguish the blazes carrying heavy equipment. But when they saw how effective they could be, their reputation grew. So I think this is everywhere. When you start doing something, people would judge you, people would demotivate you, but then when they see how effective it is, then they would support you.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and I think as we said for the last story as well, it's very important that these stories, even though it's not as um sort of viral worthy or something, I think for a responsible media house, and that's why we choose stories and articles from these responsible media houses who are not only putting out things for just entertainment, but also bringing out the real
Yes.
issues there.
And there's a
Um,
really, really nice line in the article that says, that Raja Prabha has said, when we protect the forest protects us. And this is so important, because I think, these women started this because they were fed up of the irritation in their eyes caused by the smoke, and they did something about it. But most people would just accept and just sit down and not do anything about it. So it is amazing, and we applaud their efforts for actually doing this.
yes, that is great. Um,
I think we
we
have 5 minutes to just give an update on the Brazil shark meat. Um,
I think that's a good um good thing to do um while we wait.
yes,
Um, so this is the continuation from the Manga Bay sort of expose that they did. So the Brazilian government is reviewing its legal framework for shark trade encompassing fin exports, and we have sort of started tracking this on our show as well, where we and this has been tracking very 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 well, you know, so far, where there was this expose and then it led to some action within the government and within the higher ups, etc. So we'll keep tracking the story. Um, so it has, weighed new measures. That means they're still in the talks, but they are sort of going in the right direction. Is what this article is basically saying. They're going in the right direction. They're trying to implement um, some of the recommendations from scientists, etc. And I think that's great when leaders, when politicians consider evidence from given by science, which happens very rarely. um that just makes me happy. um
Yep.
It's
And I think here it says that the move aims to reduce the incidental capture of sharks and other threatened species by up to 40%. So what I understand from here is that obviously they're looking at curbing fishing practices, or at least making changes in the fishing practices. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I think there are going to be some changes in the import regulations, and hopefully when there are changes in the
and
import
I think that's where
regulations.
the changes should happen, right? Like that's those are the changes that will have the most amount of impact. I feel like if you can change, if you can campaign enough to change the regulation, um, that's how you will get people to like that's how will you can implement these things en masse. Like you might want to you can the only way I see you can really fight these sorts of problems is through when regulations come in, and basically um,
Yeah,
they
I think it
completely
starts from
eliminate the
there.
need to or completely eliminates that pathway, for people to have that sort of yeah for people to have that for exporters, importers, everyone to have that pathway.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it is really important if the source from where the problem originates, like here, the shark is being fed to small children and even in hospitals and everywhere. So if the shark meat is curbed right there and then it might make a global change in how the sharks are produced and how the sharks are procured. And if the sharks are not procured itself, then we can actually make a significant change. So it has to start from where the demand is. If there is no demand, there will be no supply.
Yeah, I think th- that's what governments should look at, which unfortunately um, is the last thing governments look at, because yeah, it's very difficult for politicians to for politicians to pay any heed to you know to scientific evidence. It's very, very difficult for politicians to uh, get to pay any heed to scientific evidence. Um, so yeah, it's bad. But how the story is progressing, and we have been tracking the story, and we'll continue to track the story, looking like things are going in the right direction. But anyway, our guest has arrived in the waiting room, so we are ready for him. I'll just give a short introduction before. So, as I said at the beginning, we have a special guest um, here today. So, his name is Partha Sarathi Mishra, an assistant professor at Srishti Manipal Institute of Arts, Bangalore, Arts, Design and Technology, Bangalore. Since 2011, he has focused on wildlife biology, particularly primate behavior and macaques. His PhD studied long-tailed macaque relationships on Great Nicobar Island. He's VP of Student Affairs at the International Primatological Society, researching anthropogenic impact on macaque communication. In his free time, Partho enjoys acting, hiking, motorbike rides, and spending time with his lab rescued beagle named Flipper, which is fantastic. So, without any more delay, I'll just welcome Partho to the show. Hi, Partho. Welcome to the Wildbit Show. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and we are very thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a good
Uh,
way to start a Sunday, though.
yes, I think so. I would say. So before we begin, could you just sort of tell us your journey into research? How or and how like macaques found you? I would say.
Yeah, that would be the right way to go about it. Um, so I think it came out a long back when I was growing up. I think I watched a lot of documentaries. I think that's a gateway to many people who actually are into this. Um, but ho- but coming from a very small town, it wasn't really easy to really know what is really going on in India. And that time there was no internet, and the information was really, I would say, quite less. Um, Having said that, then I did my biotech as bachelor's and master's, which was not the ideal for me because I thought I would be rather going to the field rather than being a lab. Later on,
Mm.
it hit me that okay, maybe lab is also as important in the wildlife as well as going into the wild. So I got an opportunity long back in 2011 to work on the tiger project in WII, Wildlife Institute of India.
Mm.
I was starting there because I had no experience beforehand. So that was a really good gateway to get into it and to understand what goes along when it comes to conservation, counting the numbers of animals, what goes along when throughout the day-to-day lives of researchers, forest departments, and everyone who is involved in conservation or living with animals per se. I think there was an incident which kind of attracted me towards primates a lot. I didn't jump on directly on macaques because I wasn't really aware of how many species of monkeys even we have in India
Mm.
at that point of time. So I saw one day the jeep which we used to travel by in the forest. We were going, and suddenly the jeep came to a sudden halt. We saw a small monkey. We was in the middle of the road. It was a langur, and he was screeching very loudly. So it was actually stuck on the middle of the road, and the family was really scared of it. So nobody was coming to rescue this little one. So I saw there was another little monkey who came down, took this another little one on his shoulder, even if he was or she was really struggling to really carry this baby. That was pretty fascinating to see because the risk was pretty high for both of them to actually go through that, and they had no way to know whether we will be harming them or not. So for them, it's a big danger that is in front of them, and this young one is taking care of another young one. So I try to understand how this really works out when it really comes to taking care of yourself, because everyone wants to mix. I mean, coming from biological background, we all know that it's about genes, and everyone wants to maximize their genes coming to the next or going to the next generation. So that was my understanding. But then I wanted to know how group animals actually worked out. So I worked on similar smaller projects until I found my calling, to be honest. Like, there was a
Mm.
project that was working in Great Nicobar Island in India. It was Dr. Kumara's work from Salim Ali Center of Ornithology and Natural History in Coimbatore. So Dr. Kumara was my guide, and I went to Great Nicobar Island. It was a life-changing experience, to be honest.
I can imagine.
And absolutely, and I saw a lot of the long-tailed macaques for the first time. I mean, they are only present on three islands in Nicobar Islands. And to get to Nicobar is not also something that many people do. So the information that has come from these macaques were also scanty. There was few isolated reports of what has been happening. So this was the first major project that we have taken on. And we were three of us. We wanted to know more about everything, about whatever we can get from our time in the
And so
on macaques from this.
when you started that sort of research and investigation, at that point they were still a poorly described, poorly researched species, would you say?
Species not so much, because it's a very common species in throughout
Mm.
Southeast Asia,
Right.
because they are the population is huge in some of these areas in Thailand and in Bali. In some of these areas, the population is thriving, and in fact, they are becoming kind of a menace to the city administrators. At least in some places like Lopburi and all those places in Thailand, there is a
Mm.
huge population. But having said that, we didn't really look at the subspecies level of it, which these monkeys have around 10 subspecies, and one of
Mm.
these and they're very widely separated from each other. Many of them are found on very isolated islands. One of which is so these are Macaca fascicularis, as in the genus and scientific name. But the one which we studied in Nicobar is Macaca fascicularis umbrosus. And there are 9 more such subspecies throughout Southeast Asia. And so we thought, okay, maybe subspecies level, since they are separated for so long, maybe there is a difference among how they look and how they do their things. And that is true, because if we look at the monkeys that we find in Thailand, they look very, very different from the one that we have in Nicobar. Ours is very dark, and those are quite, I would say, rufous color or slight brown. So that's a huge difference between in the morphological features also in certain ways.
Right.
But we had no way to know whether it was due to what reason, and we still do not know, to be honest. And so it was fascinating for us to look at, okay, maybe this island biogeography might be very different when it comes to the monkey and their population, and in surviving these islands, because island has its own thing going on for them and their ecology, and it's an isolated place. And so how the population increases in the finite space with finite resources is something that we really wanted to know. There was one major study that was done in 2003 by Dr. Umapati from CCMB and Dr. Meva Singh from Mysore University. It's about how these monkeys are spread out in the 3 islands. There are 3 islands in Kachal, Little Nicobar, and Great Nicobar, and they are pretty far off from each other. And so this first project actually looked at the basic idea of where these monkeys could be found and the very basic biology of it. So that was the first thing. But the problem was, immediately after 2003, there was this life-changing or geography-changing thing that happened on the islands, and it was the tsunami. And that actually impacted a lot of places, because if you look at the maps of places, a lot of beach or the coastal areas got submerged. So there was also a report in 2010 by Dr. Shivakumar from WII that there is a drastic decrease in population of these monkeys. So when we started the work, we wanted to know, okay, what is happening? What is the condition now? Because 2010 to 2013 or 14, there was quite some time, and it's known from elsewhere that the monkeys are actually very adapted. I mean, the macaques especially can be very adaptive, because they can survive on any food items for that matter, and especially that what we have seen in other species or in other subspecies in long-tailed macaques, they can actually do very well with human food, living next to humans, and actually they survive or flourish even at times. So we wanted to know how these monkeys are doing. Having said that, because these are the only ones that we find on the island, so perhaps there are a lot of differences between what we find on mainland and something what we find on the island. So that was the major goal of understanding, having a larger understanding of these macaques when we actually went to the island. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, one, are there, out of the 3 islands, or do all of them have human population, or are there islands which just have the monkeys, and are they surviving? Or secondly, like, what happened after the tsunami? Like, why did it create more human wildlife conflict? Did it impact the resources, or was it just submergence of land?
For the first question, yes, all the 3 islands have humans as well as the monkeys living there, and they have very interesting histories, because the people who live on these 3 islands are very varied from each other. So in the history of Kachal, which is one of the islands which I never ventured, but my colleagues did, and what we knew from there was this place was a huge palm oil plantation, and after a point of time, it was it was abandoned. So it became a nice place for the monkeys to actually live there and flourish themselves. So, and there's a lot of political history also from that island. Was after when we were having Sri Lankan Tamils as refugees in India, Kachal was one of the places where these people were rehabilitated. And so, of course, they also had the indigenous population of Nicobarese tribe as well. So it was a mixed population of different people from different parts of India, and also certain parts of say other parts of parts of Southeast Asia. South Asia. For the second question, there has been a report of increased conflict among the monkeys and the people, but the reasons can be very complex and varied among all the islands, to be honest, because we do not know if the increase in increase in the conflict is there in the Little Nicobar Island as well, because the Little Nicobar Island might be the only island where only the indigenous tribe people live, and
Oh,
nobody else from the mainlanders actually go there. Yes, so sometimes the teachers from Port Blair who are from mainland or from who are non-indigenous would actually go there, teach for some time, and come back. During election time, people will go there. Police, maybe Coast Guard, and some shipping people would be there, but very small numbers. So there is no report from there where we can say that okay, Little Nicobar has a conflict, because having said that, indigenous people from for both all of these islands have been there for quite some time, and we have never gotten, or nobody has ever listened to any complaint from them about monkeys, destroying the crops or eating up a lot of their livelihood and things like that. But having said that, the history behind all these islands, especially Great Nicobar, where I was very interesting, because the number of people and the variety I wouldn't be the right word, but the people where they're coming from is quite varied, because in 1916, because it's so close to Indonesia, it's like 126 kilometers only from the nearest part of Indonesia, which is Banda Aceh. It's only 126 kilometers, and it's also extremely close to the international shipping line, which is one of the most busiest shipping line when it comes to Singapore, and which connects Singapore with the rest of the world, and especially the West. So this was a very strategic area. So 1969, our prime minister of that time, Indira Gandhi, she thought, okay, this is a very strategic area, so maybe it can be a good place for us to be. So there was a nice understanding between Indonesian authorities and India, where when they formed a pact of, okay, this place should be like named after, or named India, would be occupied by India, or it
mm,
belongs to India for that matter. And for that reason, the Indira Point, that is the southernmost part of any Indian territory, is there on the southernmost part of Great Nicobar Island. So that was done because Indira Gandhi was one of the architects of what was happening. But what really happened was, there was initially some 40 odd families was actually settled on the island, because previously there was only indigenous population of two tribes. One is Nicobaris and the other one is Shampen. The
mm,
Nicobaris are, I would say, at this point of time, are more assimilated with the mainlanders who have come, but Champens are a little iffy about it for, I don't know, maybe for right reasons. But we do not know the exact numbers of that, because the Anthropological Survey of India had done study long back, and we also did not have a recent census for us. So we do not have a good idea about what numbers. But the last time, I think it was some nine odd bands of or groups of Champins, and most of them are hunter gatherers, if not all of them. And maybe one or two bands actually do some bartering with the mainlanders who have settled there. So these mainlanders also have a nice history, because they are all ex-army people or ex-defense people who were actually settled there by Indira Gandhi and during that government, and it has continued over the period of year. So it's also a mini India, where you can find people from all over India actually staying there, because they were all descendants of army people, or some of the army people themselves right now. So the lives for them have been also been very complicated, because they are not hunter gatherers, so it's very hard for them to not survive on that island, which is very hard for people coming from mainland, because they do not grow the same amount of food, or which you are usually accustomed of. So they had to clear a lot of forest and make this forest work for themselves, and over a period of time they have settled down with having orchards or some kind of farms and things like that. And over a period of time, I think after tsunami, what we have seen, that there is a lot of ingression of water in the coastal areas. And a hypothesis that we have is these coastal areas had a lot of fruiting trees. Like for example, pandanus, which is a very popular food or fruit for the monkeys that are there. Even it's very popular for food in southeastern cuisine. You get a lot of pandanus in food. So pandanus was something which is very much important for monkeys, which are away from the humans right now as well. And coconut was something which was again very important, because again coconut will usually be in the coastal areas if they're growing by themselves. So after a point of time, a lot of these plants were actually washed out by tsunami, and also there were a lot of food that was grown by people. So for the fallout effect of one going from one place to the other, for them to survive, they went on going very close to the people who were growing things very close to the forest, or growing very close to the coastal areas. So they got easy access, for the monkeys got very easy access to go into any of these places and have a nice understanding of how to, um, I would say, exploit the conditions for their own benefit.
Mm.
And they are extremely smart about it. So of course they need to survive. So for them, it's not a morality or a thing, but for people there, it also becomes a livelihood ka issue. So that is something, I think, that has contributed a lot about conservation. But again, things are not that easy. There are way many more factors which we found out while talking to people, which maybe we can also talk about as we go forward with this, or I can also address this as we go.
Um, one question, you mentioned some morphological sort of similarities or differences. Do we know when sort of this island population was separated from the mainland? Was it with the separation um, of those islands from the mainland when it happened geologically, or was it later on? Yeah.
So we do not know when exactly the species or subspecies split from each other, but we know of that the lands started separating from each other during Pleistocene, which is long back.
Mm.
But we do not really know when did these monkeys were started being very different from each other. And we have done a very small genetic analysis of this as well. So we thought that these monkeys will be genetically closer to, say, Sumatran population, which is very close to it. But we did it with mitochondrial DNA. So we found out that actually the genes were more closer to the Javan population. But Java is
Mm.
quite far from that place. It's mostly in the central. I wouldn't say there is anything central about Indonesia, but it's more about that part of, I mean, quite far from the island itself. So that was surprising. Although I wouldn't say, I would take this with a little pinch of salt, because mitochondrial DNA is not always the best way to go about. So we might need to also look at nuclear DNA, which we haven't. So some of the mysteries are still unsolved, I would say, and it will be good to look at it from that perspective. However, there is another macaque in Sumatra. I mean, same macaques, Macaca fascicularis simuli. And what we found out is that morphologically they are very, very similar. And I don't know what genetically how close or separate they are. Should not be very different, but again, that's only speculation at this point of time. But Simulu and these Ambrosus, like ours, are very, very close also morphologically, with the colors. And so when I say morphologically, I would say color rather than any size differences or anything per se.
Mm.
But there are similarities which you can really see when you see a long-tailed macaque, and you can say, okay, this is a long-tailed macaque because they have certain characteristics in their faces, and on their top of their heads is a lot like nice, I would say, mohawk kind of a hairstyle. Some of them have got like a spike that goes along with a lot of subspecies, and which is also common in most of the long-tailed macaque. And usually the pictures that you see from Bali or Thailand, they have a nice notch on the top of their head.
Yeah.
So again, morphologically speaking, I would say colors are very different from each other, but genetically, I'm not. I don't think I have enough data to actually talk about how different they are genetically.
I
But
wanted to ask. There's a lot of talks, right, about this port being built in Nicobar now.
Right.
What do you think about it, and what is the impact going to be on the monkeys and the people going forward? Because I think the port is something a lot of people are also objecting to. One, obviously, I think it is going to change a lot of things environmentally, and it's still a very environmentally fragile region. So, what are the chances of that port coming up, and what are the impacts going to be for it, for everything, even marine and land and everyone?
Right. I think that's a nice debate that is going on, and anyone I think who has been on the island for long enough, in terms of looking at the ecology of it, they would know that it's a really problematic thing to have. I mean, of course, the chances are really high, but there's a lot of opposition also. So we do not know at what condition it is in. But of course, a lot of people, including a lot of ecologists, have talked about it because the place where it is supposed to be has a lot of it is not the most ecologically sensible place to make such a big project coming along. It's a I mean, it's a fantastic turtle nesting place for leatherback turtles. It has fantastic places for a lot of different species like Nicobar megapod, which is also
mm,
endemic species to that particular island and nowhere else. So there are other lot of, and perhaps the what we do not absolutely talk about is the amount of botanical heritage that is going to be lost. I mean, the amount of trees that are estimated to be cut down is humongous. I mean, that some lakhs of trees are going to fell down, and which is at this point of time when the world is going through the climate crisis like this, it's unthinkable to do that. With in terms of monkeys, it's going to be hard to say, but what we have understood from case studies everywhere else is that it's obviously going to increase the human macaque conflict, and because the land is going to be cleared out, and when the land is going to be cleared out, there is more uh, coming together of monkeys and people together, so that can lead to a lot of different problems when it comes to human life wildlife negative interactions. Conflict might not be the right word, but negative interactions. Having said that, we do not know what it also installs when it comes to the health part of it, because we have seen as much as we go forward with cutting the trees and going next to the populations of wild animals, we are also exposing ourselves to different microbes, which would create a lot of issues when it comes to say pandemics. For having said that, I mean, we have seen that in Africa, and we have also seen that globally when it's speaking about endemics, and the way and so epidemics and also the pandemics that we are looking at, it has increased way more after. So that is one way, of course, and also the scale of it is humongous. I mean, the scale and the support that requires that this project needs is so big, it's very unfathomable for anyone who is there, because it needs to be there's some 20K people. I think I might be totally wrong. I'm not able to get the right numbers at this point of time, but it will be huge numbers, from some tens of thousands to millions of people actually getting there for the first phase or for phases after phases. And to support that
mm,
project, there needs to be a huge amount of population that needs to be supported on this island. But as we said before, island is a very small place. It can only sustain certain people, and unfortunately the animals do not vote, so we will not be able to think very deeply for them. And of course, and it comes to economy of it, and we know that economy is mostly about infrastructure these days rather than the green economy that we talk about so much. um, so those are some of the things, and then again, the resources or the carrying capacity of this island, I severely doubt it will hold or something of that scale. And also, having said that, maybe the locals would be happy to, certain locals are not the indigenous. There's a lot of debates about whether the indigenous population were actually talked or had people had a discussion with them whether their land will be taken or not. So there is a lot of controversies around that also, about people about the tribal people saying that their voices were not being heard properly, which again would be super wrong, because they are the original inhabitants of that place. So there is a lot that going on along. And also, if you that's my say in this, is that the skill that you require to run a place smoothly like this, that skill is not there with the island population right now. So again, the island population, as we have seen elsewhere, the people has to be brought from other places, and the people who are already living on the island might not get the jobs they really would like to have. But again, the land will have to be compensated and all those things. So it's a, I would say it's a fallacy, or it's a really a problematic thing from my angle. I would say that it is going to come out like that. And I agree with a lot of things that have been told against it, like what Pankaj Seksaria and other people who have been working on this for a really long time and has given a very detailed report about it, has mentioned it very well, that the problems of this whole island, and we should not forget that it's also very prone to earthquakes, and it's extremely prone to earthquakes, and that may or may not be very suitable for making infrastructure of that scale on that island as well. So there are a lot of different ways of looking at things, but if you ask for my opinion, I would say it is only going to be bad for the people who have been living there, and also for the ecology of that place for sure.
And I think you mentioned sort of that the population being impacted, and human animal conflicts increasing, and I think we have evidence from like especially China, where species like white-headed langurs, they only just remain in patches between farmland and human habitation. We definitely don't want that to happen as well here, where it just becomes this inbred population as well. And do you find, or do you know if the people who are building um, this, or people who are taking this up, are they in consultation with scientists? Are they engaging scientists? Are they talking to scientists? Are they uh, tracking some data or anything like that? Do you know?
What we know of right now is they had commissioned a few scientists to go there and get some information out there.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't say there is a continuous dialogue which needs to be there when it comes to a scale of or a construction of this sort. Because when there is a lot of opposition to something, you need to sit down and see if you can really rectify, or make people think, okay, this is what we are doing is for you, and there is not going to be enough harm. But having said that, there is a clear indication of that, okay, you need to fell at least 2 million or 200, some 2 lakh trees or something like that, even more than that.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm even, this number might also be less. So having said that, you need to have a constant dialogue with people who are having points against it, which are valid points, and but that has not been happening for a long time. And it seems like with certain ideas or certain data from certain scientists has gotten to this to the people who are policymakers of this, and they're not really following it up with other discussions and continuous open-ended discussions or transparent discussions as we go along. So I would think it's not really very transparent at this point of time how much consultation is happening, or how much people are actually being consulted who have been on this place for a long time. So yeah.
Hmm.
I
That
I wanted
is.
to Yeah, I wanted to ask about when you mentioned about the little Nicobar, and how the people are not complaining about the monkey problem there. Is it because the indigenous tribes there are still hunter gatherers? Are they actually farming, or are they only hunter gatherers? And is that why there is less conflict there, because the monkeys are not coming out to farms?
So again, the it could be also that they do not have the data of people complaining or not. I do not know if it has increased, but that's what the pattern we have seen is the people from the indigenous community really do not have any much problem with the monkeys at all, because they
Hmm.
have been living together for a long time,
For a long time.
and very long time. And I do not know whom of them were the first to actually be on the island, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, Having said that, not they're not hunter gatherers per se. The Nicobaris tribe is not very hunter gatherers, so they grow their coconut farms and they'll do a lot of fishing. So these two things are very important for them, and they use a lot of resources which are already being found. So, that, for example, pandanus is very important for them, which was also important for the monkeys. Coconut is important for them. Coconut was very important for the monkeys as well. But they didn't used to sell this because they used to use it for consumption. For consumption, there might not be enough deficit even if the monkeys are eating it. But if you're trying to sell this, and there is, since there are no markets and there is no proper incentives for the farmers, so the people who are actually growing it commercially, say on Great Nicobar Island or Kachal, they are facing this problem way more because commercially it becomes a problem for their livelihood to be impacted by that. But for Nicobaris, they can actually they know how to live with the land, and they know they have their own problems. Of course, the problems are not law because, of course, they are also what Nicobar is a little bit more, as I say, more assimilated with the mainlanders. So they also need education. They are in the mainstream of education, healthcare, and things like that. So, of course, those problems are there in Little Nicobar as well, and perhaps some economy also. Perhaps as we go forward with this, they also would like to be more economically sustainable for themselves. But having said that, whether the problem is because of monkeys is I do not think so, because when it comes to livelihood, that is not really getting impacted a lot by the monkeys only. It's more about the infrastructure and what are the services that are provided to them from the administration and from the governance itself.
Yeah, and I think every one of us should stay with that thought for a minute there, because I think that is, you described it beautifully, where the Nicobaris and the monkeys, they're basically sharing the same resource. So if you're not wanting to exploit that resource, as long as nobody's wanting to exploit that resource, they shouldn't have, like, nature has that for everyone, like that amount for everyone, both the monkeys and the humans to survive. And that has been the case for like hundreds of thousands of years, until we decided to farm and tie it to our livelihood and economy, be it barter, be it now with money exchange and anything else. That is a very interesting thought. That is a very interesting thought.
Having said
And
that, I'm not against the people who have, because they were also kind of put here by the government, and we have to
Mm.
really think about it because the Great Nicobar is not. I mean, only the name is great because the services and the facilities that is there for people are not even basic for that matter, and that's I can understand some of the anger that they have towards the administration, that nobody's there to listen to them, to be honest. I mean, because it's problematic for them because they have been always dependent on the mainland supplies or whatever, because you cannot grow certain things. The hospital are in really bad shapes, this education is bad, and you cannot get half of the things which you can get usually on any part of the island. You cannot get, at times when the ship is not there because of bad weather, you will not get potatoes, rice, wheat, sugar, tea, and all those things which are kind of staple. And it's not that they are accustomed of living there with whatever you get from the island, because their needs are different. So that's, I totally understand that their anger is towards that. And but the idea is to build the basics for them first, rather than bringing the whole big project which may or may not again um, address the same the systemic issues that are already being there.
Yeah, I think it has very little to no chance of addressing those systemic issues. The more chance, again, is of filling the coffers of those people who are funding it, and also the government will have some strategic advantages, maybe, maybe not, but the cost to the ecology is far greater than that. And I think all of us feel the same way there as well. So yeah, it's terrible.
um
Um,
and and I think, Partha, talking about your story of how you got interested in monkeys, what do you think about the general perception that people have about monkeys and the conflict that and I mean, how people usually perceive monkeys. I think you really wanted to, touch on this topic. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's very similar to how we associate ourselves with monkeys in the rest of India as well. Because we take those values wherever we go, and no matter which island it is in. So I think it's a very dichotomous about how we really perceive monkeys, even on the islands. Sometimes we revere them. I mean, we give them prasadam from the temples that is coming up, and we feed them, thinking it is it's a a pious thing to do, and it's a good thing. It's a then you will go to
Because
heaven
we
if
have
you do
been
things like.
worshipping Hanuman and
Absolutely.
Yes.
monkeys for a
Yes.
long, long time.
Very long time, absolutely. But when it comes to the monkeys, so you want monkeys to come to you only on your terms. But when the monkeys are coming to actually come to your kitchen garden to get some of your tomatoes back, then that is a problem. So then that is the time you will be. So there's a lot of different, I would say, opinions from different peoples on the island. So for the farmers, it's understandable they are not very happy with the monkeys. But again, I would say there is a lot of systemic issues like lack of market, lack of storage spaces for any of your crops, and also they live very far off from their farms. So the time and the transport is not great. So by the time they reach their farm in the morning, that is too late, because by the time monkeys would actually go and raid and eat everything. So even if you have to protect a place, you need certain guards for that. They do not have the access to certain things, and they are not very well off to also. Even with well off, even if they are well off, they do not have enough labor to actually use them for guarding and all. So the perception towards monkeys will definitely go more negative as we go along. But having said that, there is a lot of unmeasured loss that is also happening by other species like rats, parrots, and other animals that kind of also damages a lot of um, things that are already grown. But monkeys are something that is extremely visible in out of there, and there is always a notion of having that monkeys are naughty and they are always up to some mischief. So that gives them a bad repo of also that okay, um, you know, so people think that okay, everything that is wrong might be it's like monkeying around kind of thing.
Mhm.
So this all of these words have a big ramifications of how we perceive each animal for that matter, and how so monkeys are again, we also worship them, but we also find them extremely mischievous. So any problem that we have is definitely going. A lot of blame is going to go to them. But again, it's very varied, to be honest. Again, we also know that the Champins, who are the indigenous population and do not mix very much with the outsiders, they also hunt monkeys. It has been noted from the Anthropological Survey of India that they also hunt monkeys at times, and it is part of their food as well, because they are hunter
Mhm.
gatherers.
Mhm.
So hunting is a big part of their lives, and you do not have much mammals going around on the island. So monkeys are perhaps the largest mammal, and you have the largest animal per se would be the saltwater crocodile. Um, I mean, I would say on the land at least. I mean, even if the crocodile is on both sides, but if they are still on the land, so I will consider it like that. So again, from their perspective, again it's very different, and they have grown together uh, in many ways. And but the people who have been from the mainlanders, they are usually that we have seen is not very happy with the monkeys, and there are a lot of different opinions about take the monkeys away and put them in other
Mhm.
island, bring Hanuman Langur, and maybe they will be scared to do this. So whatever they can think of, their ideas that they have captured from back in India, mainland India, which has been say used in particular order to get rid of certain problems of monkey and human negative interactions. So they are trying to bring those as well, but those things really won't work on the island, because they haven't really worked on the mainland itself. Because of
Mhm.
course the monkeys are super smart. None of the measures will ever last forever. So they would know how to how to use the loopholes in any of the measures, and after a point of time they would be back to doing that. Even if you remove one group from this to that, the other group will come back and take. So the coming back to the perception of it, people might be really angry over the monkeys, and even certain times they are the ones who are feeding the monkeys as well. Some of them really like to have the monkeys around because it's also kind of entertainment, which, and you do not have too many entertainments on the island. So for some of the people, it's also good to look at the monkeys and look at their the different kind of things that they do, and they feed the monkeys, which is usually the start of every problem when we see because there has to be certain boundaries between humans and wildlife for the betterment of both sides. Because of course, once you, it's not that monkeys think that okay, you are doing me a favor. It can see there is a food, I'm gonna eat the food, it is easily accessible. and
I mean,
and that
food is the
is
most like polarizing thing, even for humans. Like every
absolutely.
species out there, food is the most important resource for everyone. So of course they will come to a source of food. To
Absolutely.
eat.
And also we are very, I mean, we are excellent in when it comes to garbage management, of course. Um, so that has also led to a huge amount of human and monkey conflict, because again, the monkeys are very active throughout the day. So of course, what you need is protein as well as sugar. And a lot of times what you do is empty, throw your garbage, which, and human food is full of fat and sugar. For example, we have seen the monkeys, there is a nice coconut, there, and there is a packet of bourbon around it. So they will usually go to the bourbon first and then the coconut, because they have figured out, okay, this has much sugar, this will last me longer, so they can perhaps to use more of it time to do something else. But again, having said that, coconut is usually the something that they favor. So
But like, do you think, Partha, it's not just the sugar, but it is also the taste? Like, I mean, even as humans, if you give us a salad and you give us bourbon biscuits, most humans will go for the bourbon biscuits.
I do not know how their taste perception is, and to be honest, I mean, but I would really say, but because it might be so. I mean, sugar does taste well, so I mean that's the whole point of also people getting attracted towards sugar in the first place. And of course, I think it is safe to assume that of course it might actually taste really better, because they obviously go for ripe fruits, ripe bananas, ripe jackfruits, ripe and really tender coconuts. So I would say definitely, I mean, I would say that the smell of the fruit and the taste of it, the ester, that the esterish, I don't know how that's estery smell that is there, the fragrance that actually attracts the monkeys towards them for sure. For that helps in the seed propagation of that, but also, the monkeys are attracted towards it because of course it is sweeter and it maybe tastes better as well.
Mm. And like we not taking much more of your time, we should sort of draw it to a close. But one last question that I sort of had is, what do you see as the sort of future scope of research after that, after the body of research that you have done? What are the future scopes of research that is going on with the monkeys, and like how important do you place that to for those ecosystems, um, in the political and sort of economical environment?
I mean, to be honest, I think I have a lot of respect for the people who are still working there, because there are a lot of colleagues of mine who are still working there, and they have been there through the tumultuous time of being there, because it's not easy getting permissions from that place. You have to apply for permissions each year, and it is up to the understanding of forest department whether they want to renew it or not. And there's a lot of work that is going on the behaviors of these monkeys, and the understanding of humans as well as the monkeys in a larger scale. And to be honest, it's not easy to be on that island if you're your custom of life on the mainland, because you won't get when during our time we didn't have any internet or any proper network connection, which, I mean, we had BSNL, which used to be very bad. Now it seems that they have internet, but again, they do not have proper transport, healthcare, education, entertainment, for them to really do something about it. And for people coming from outside, it might again get very claustrophobic for them. to be on that island for a long, long time. But I know people who have been working there for quite some time, and it's very, very important because again, the whole world is in transition, and biogeography makes it even more vulnerable for any change to be made there. For that matter, I think there
That is,
needs
I
to be
think, a very crucial point. Sorry to interrupt, because
no noise.
we studied in New Zealand. I am still living in New Zealand.
Mm.
Living in an island nation just makes you realize how much more vulnerable island ecosystems can be, and that's the great point how you sort of put it there as well, beautifully. Um,
Absolutely, and it's also not something which is it's not a place which is also, I would say, developed in case of the basic amenities that people have. So it's important for people to actually go on and keep on working on these things. The landscape changes very rapidly, not only because of human activity, but also because the climate change is extremely impactful on the islands, and the submergence of certain places are increasing every now and then, and also the places very close to Indonesia and all those things. And of course, this is also a hotbed of lot of defense activities. So all of these will obviously give a lot, I mean, make a lot of changes on these islands. So it needs to be studied from an objective point of view, where we know that whatever we do will have an impact on a larger scale, even if the work is even if the change is on a smaller scale, because the domino effect of it is really, really huge when it comes to the island, because everything is in a small space with a very small carrying capacity of having people. For example, drinking water again is a big problem. So I don't know if there's a millions of people coming on that island, what is going to be the case when it comes to drinking water, and who is going to be facing the problem. So there needs to be a constant understanding and updation of understanding of the knowledge and research and the whole landscape, for that matter. It's not an easy landscape to work with, but there are people who are going to work with, and I think there's a new project also that is coming up from certain organizations, where certain people will look at the long-term effects of certain impacts of these projects that are going to come up, which makes me think that these projects are going ahead with, no matter even if there is enough opposition for it. So there are projects now in which people are trying to look at what is the impact of everything that is going to happen on different species or on the landscape level on that island. So it needs to be studied from a landscape level, absolutely, which is actually not very much that is done on the islands.
hmm.
I can understand why, but it somehow, if it is possible, it needs to be done, and it needs to be a continuous effort.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that was a very interesting session. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your insights.
Sure.
I think both Ups and me, we have learned so much about Nicobar, the problems at the monkeys, and everything else. Um, so thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
And the episode is live, so you can see it. Everyone who is watching, I hope you had the same experience as us. So thank you, Partha. Now Kinshuk will.
My pleasure.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was very very interesting and very informative, as you said. And I think these the species like these macaques, we take them for granted up to a point. They're everywhere. They're a nuisance, as Partha was saying, and yeah, and
But I
until
think
it is right in our face.
one of the things that I think I read about, at least in his paper, was that even though they're so much in his face, they have the tolerance that they do not want to kill the species, even
That
if
is
they're in
right.
the face. But opposed to other countries, like, at least I think, because we still have some kind of reverence. But in other places, like especially in New Zealand with the possums, where they're the most visible, you're like, just kill, kill, kill. Other places, conservation is a lot of killing, and that, I think, makes India very different, that there is more tolerance than other areas, because we kind of have some kind of reverence associated with different animals as gods.
Yes, that is the I think that plays an important you know
Role.
important role in that whole perception thing as well.
And
But
I
I
think
mean,
one
Southeast Asia in general, like monkeys are
is like that.
seen as a nuisance, as
I
well.
think it's
Bali, Indonesia, Thailand, all these places.
there are certain places, like I mean in Bali there's actually like a monkey forest. It's called the Ubud something
Ubud,
forest.
Ubud,
And
yeah.
yeah, and you can go inside and the monkeys are just like very friendly and they're all over you. So there are, I think, different perspectives where sometimes monkeys are absolute nuisance, and then sometimes, just like how I think Partha pointed out, like you want the monkeys at your convenience. So like, where it is convenient for you, you like monkeys, but where it is inconvenient for you do not like monkeys. And that is, I think, a very human thing, because we want everything else to be on our terms instead of trying to understand their terms as well.
I think that's, and I really liked when he sort of mentioned the sharing of resources versus exploiting the resources. I think
Yeah.
that's what creates the problem, right?
Yes.
When you're just sharing the resources, I think nature has enough for both species, and that it
Mm.
has been like that for 100,000 years or whatever amount of time. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
that sharing
Plus
versus
also I think
exploiting.
it depends on, yeah, I think also what happens is, when he talks about the indigenous species, those have been coexisting with the monkeys for a long time. It is just that the changing things that are happening, one with maybe the export import, with all the ports coming in and everything, this is going to cause more problems. It's not, the coexistence in itself was something that has been happening for thousands or thousands and thousands of years, but the evolving pattern of our usage and what we want, our demand and supply, everything is changing, which is probably impacting the animals more, just because we are changing. It's not the animals that are changing, but our land use and our wants and needs are changing.
Yes, yes. I think there was a comment from someone on our shark thing that we can address quickly. So it just says sharks are being caught incidentally or opportunistically in India. They are seldom targeted. And then he continues to say, and shark export has blanket ban already in India. I think I think what they're trying to convey is India is playing nice, but I mean, this is like all of this that happens is under the table, under the line, sort of kind of things, shark fishing or anything like that. Um, Even if that's true, the bans and things like that, most of the things, unless there's a super huge expose like Mike Pandey did with whale
No,
sharks,
but
etc.
it's not just that. Even whoever has commented this, I would just like to tell them that I've actually spoken to a shark researcher who has actively gone to these markets, and I think we've spoken about this a few episodes back, where she had to take special permission to even take photos, because they were not
Mm,
comfortable with all the sharks there. India is one of the big shark meat exporters, and people go
mm,
into the deep deep waters 4 5 uh, days out to get sharks, because all the sharks have been depleted around the islands, like the Andaman Islands are one of the biggest places where this happens, and even in the mainland around Kerala and other places this happens, um,
mm,
where they actually go into the waters. And this is why the impacts have been seen in Andaman and other places, because the sharks have been depleted. People now eat groupers and rays, because the
mm,
fish are depleting and there's not active fish. What do you say, recovery. So we don't have the proper fish that they used to actually have. So the shark fishing is not illegal in India. Some fish are said to be illegal, but how can you say, okay, don't catch these four fish and catch these four sharks? Because when you net all the sharks together. So
mm.
either you ban sharks completely, it is again like the shark nets. It is a very convenient solution to say that, okay, let's protect these sharks and let's not protect these sharks. But if you're going to allow for shark fishing in itself, it is going to turn up and decimate all kinds of shark population. And we do need those kind of regulations in place. So I think you might think that this doesn't happen in in India, but it is the same thing. Like, how most people think that because cows are very sacred in India, we don't consume beef, but we are one of the biggest beef exporters. So we're a big hypocritical economy, or a big hypocritical country,
I
as I
mean,
would say.
I would say like nothing different than any of the other economies out there. But yes, like as as the commenter pointed out, shark export is indeed banned. Shark fins is banned since 2015, but then there are illegal fisheries, illegal export, because there is a demand, and you have to serve that demand somehow. So people will find ways of
But
of
but there
exporting
is a
something that is banned.
2000 there's a 2025 Mongabe report which says that we are India is home to around we are the third largest shark fishing nation globally.
See,
Third
there you
largest
go.
shark
You know,
fishing nation.
and if that's all of that is happening like illegally and under the table, that just boggles my mind to um if that's happening illegally, that just boggles my mind to how much resourceful these people are. And they're just fueling this huge industry. um yeah, but thanks for the comment. I hope we've answered your question a little bit, and we'll put some resources in the comments, in the pinned comments, as well. Some reading resources there, just to make sure that the full picture is being presented. But I think we should draw close to today's episode now. Meghna, what do you think?
Definitely. I think it was a great
Any
episode. And we just have obviously one ending question. Which topic did you like the most? What do you think about community engagement? In what ways do you see yourself making small changes? Like, we would love to hear uh, when you say change begins from us, what are the changes that at an individual level or a community level we can strive to do every day?
That would be great, and we would love to feature some of those comments and stories in one of our next episodes as well. But other than that, don't forget to subscribe and follow on all our social media handles. All of them will be in the description, and they're on your screen as well. Do leave a comment, and consider rating us on any of the podcast platforms if you're listening to a recorded version of the show. But that's it for today, and we will see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a very good one, guys.
Bye bye.